Hey, it's Nay, and welcome to Nay's Little Garden. So I just wanted to have a quick little conversation on like some different gardening methods, and I'll obviously talk to you also about some of the methods that I actually use and prefer to use and why. I think that it's important to know that there's a ton of different ways that you can garden, or I should say multiple ways that you can garden and make it accessible. I feel like when you're already in a certain community, the options seem very obvious, of course you have all of these options, but when you're not in that community, you actually don't know a lot of things. And so I guess I'm gonna treat this video as if you're not already in the gardening community and watching a ton of other gardeners who know what they're doing, as like an intro to these are the different ways you can garden, and they are all very valid. And then within these different areas, there are multiple ways you can go about gardening. So the first one is the most, I think, well-known and standard, which is in ground. And there's nothing with in-ground gardening. The only thing I'm in ground gardening right now are my trees, my fruit trees. That's it. Outside of that, I don't really have anything else in ground. So in ground is I would say the cheapest, right? Because the container is planet Earth and the soil is already there. Now, most people are gonna recommend that you get something to try to help fertilize the soil, and there are cons to this, right? So you can have super clay soil that's really tough and you have to try to go through, till it. Some people till often, some people don't, you till it once and don't touch it again, and some people don't like tilling, period. So you really got to look at your soil that you have to even decide if you can do those things. In different areas are different pests, and the pests are worse in ground than they are in the other formats, to my knowledge. And this is all to my knowledge. I am new to this, not yet true to this, okay? So yeah, I would say in ground is possibly the cheapest. Now, you also do typically need to have more land when doing in ground versus some of the other methods, right? That's why a lot of people feel like, oh, I need acres and acres so I can just grow rows and rows to have mad amounts of food, so on and so forth. Moving on, you have raised beds next. Raised beds, you still, to a certain extent, need a reasonable amount of land. Now, that really could be a quarter acre. That could be 2,000 square foot, and you could still fit 10 raised beds. I mean, obviously, depending on the size of the raised bed. Raised beds are the next one, and that's kind of where you now have to buy the actual container, and then you also have to fill it. You still have to give it nutrients and stuff, but at some point, unless it's a closed bottom, the ground bottom is open. Eventually, at some point, the things that you're using to block it are going to break down, and the plants will be able to reach or take in some of the nutrients from the soil. The next one I'm going to talk about is planters and pots. Now, planters / pots. So they're physical form to hold, but movable to hold plants, right? This is super small, so I don't know what, you know what I mean? Stuff that you can move and it's got some form to it, so the plants cannot grow through it. It's something that if you have a lot less land, let's just say you have a deck, porch, you can get a bunch of planters / pots and put them out. There are also the planters / pots that you can hang. So now you're doing a little bit of you're taking up air space as well, which is giving you more space. It's almost doubling your space, right? So then you can twist up a screw and hang your little stuff, things like strawberries. I mean, I've seen people do tomatoes and stuff like that. So that also is great. So you're still gonna you still buying the actual container, and you still need to buy soil, and you need to make sure to also fertilize. And now that might be a little harder because it's not quite directly in your line of sight, depending on how high you go. And you got to remember to harvest and all those good things. Because it's higher up, it's maybe out of your sight, out of mind type of thing. Then you have grow bags. Grow bags are like a pliable material in which it kind of like air prunes. And do I have a grow bag here? I feel like, no, I don't have a grow bag here, but it's a soft material that is cheaper than the pots and planters, that can come in just as many variety of sizes as a pot and planter, that you can put soil in, little fertilizer, and depending on the size of the plant, 1 to multiple plants. Now, I would consider a grow bag easier to move than a planter / pot because of just the sheer weight. A grow bag, right, is gonna be is gonna be lighter off rip than a planter, right? Because they're gonna have clay and all the plastic and all these other things. Also, I think that the handles on I feel like most grow bags have handles, is also going to make it easier to move. Now, this is something that's going to go on your flooring, right? So this could be on your deck, on your porch, just like the planters and pots. And then you have vertical planters, which are things that have multiple pockets that grow up, right? So it's going to take up a small amount of square footage, but you can grow a sugar ton of plants in a smaller amount of footage with vertical planting, right? So where you have the regular planters that you can hang up, and then you have the pot at the bottom or the grow bag at the bottom, you're still having space in the middle that's not being used, right? Air space that's not being used. The vertical planter, like a green stalk, is gonna keep going up and take all of that space up until the height it reached. Now, you are buying, once again, the actual container as well as the soil, right? All of these things are great methods to garden and all very feasible. I'm gonna now put it cheapest to most expensive. In-ground is the cheapest, I believe, right? You already have your container, you already have the soil. Grow bags will be the next cheapest, because the grow bags in and of themselves are from what I've seen, the most affordable things to purchase if you have to purchase things. Now, you can go and do really hunting down in like estate sales and garage sales and stuff, and you could find like pots probably for pretty cheap. You have to really go searching for stuff like that, and you have to get kind of lucky. The next would be the planters / the pots, right? Then you have the vertical planters, and then you have raised beds. Now, vertical planters like the green stalk, you're gonna look and be like, how is that cheaper than a raised bed? Because you can get a raised bed for like $25 to $60, excuse me, $25 to $100, $200, and it gets really big and all of that. A vertical planter, you get one, for $150 or so, $100, $150, because of the sheer amount of soil you're going to need and other byproducts of stuff in order to fill it. So, right, when filling up the vertical planter, let's use the green stalk, right, because it's so very popular. A 2 square foot bag is gonna fill up almost 2 of the tiers, and there's 5 tiers. What's also very, I think, awesome about the green stalk is you can water from the top and water it a couple times, right? So it keeps running down to essentially water through the entirety of the system. You can also purchase wheels and stuff to easily move things around. Now, yes, you can do that with pots and planters. However, because a pot and a planter can only go to such a big enough size and still fit on a thing, it's a lot less plants, right? So just the sheer amount of plants that can be rolled around in a vertical planter versus a planter or pot is insane. It's like 30 to 45 pockets in a vertical planter. And then the raised bed is the most expensive, not per se because of the actual container, although the container can get very expensive. It's the sheer amount of soil and other things you need. So a lot of time they tell you to also put cardboard at the bottom. And you don't want to use every single type of cardboard. A lot of cardboards have a lot of nonsense chemicals and coloring on it that you do not want in your garden. So then sometimes you might have to purchase that. Or depending on stuff, like you can just use cardboard that you purchase and maybe that comes with other packages, and you rip off certain parts and you put that down, right? So that's one potential expense. Then you also, people like logs and leaves and also just soil and soil gets very expensive. An 8x4 bed can take like 12 bags of soil. And even if you fill that with a couple logs or even just a bunch of leaves, you're still looking at a good amount of money and a good amount of bags of soil. And I feel like after a season or two, you're gonna end up wanting to put a little more soil into that for the first couple of years into that raised bed, because it's going to keep going down. Now this is for just about everything else except in ground, because grow bags are going to go down, plants and pots are going to go down, the vertical planters are going to go down, because as it waters it down, it starts to compact a little bit, and so you're going to want to add more soil. In my garden personally, I do not do in-ground gardening, like I said before, outside of the fruit trees. My preferences are raised beds. I just feel like I have enough. My land is a 1/4 acre. It's not a lot, right? And I'm gardening on even less than that, because my house is on this land, right? And my driveway is on this land. So let's say I'm gardening on 3,000 square foot. That sounds like nothing to a lot of people, but it is a lot. And I still have space. I can add more raised beds. I have 2, 4, 6. I think I have like 7, 8, 9. I have like 9 raised beds already on my backyard, and I can definitely put another 3 to 6 or so in there, just to take up my whole backyard, right? Or even more, and still have space for more fruit trees and so on and so forth. So I like that, because it's one of those things where you do need to just put it down and leave it where it is, but also you just plant out a bunch of crops in one go. Grow bags, I also really like grow bags, because they can take up smaller spaces, and you can put 1 to 2, 3 plants in a grow bag, right? Like a 20-gallon grow bag. And I think there's also something in that. In ground also with the pests, it's not my favorite thing. I think that raised beds also can have quite a bit of pests, because it's still on the ground, but it could avoid some pests like slugs or something, you know what I mean? And then grow bags you can quite literally put on your deck and stuff like that, as well as your vertical planter. I think a vertical planter is quite magical, because it really helps you to grow a sugar ton of stuff in literally a little space. The green stalks take up about 2 square foot of space, and I felt like every time I plant that out, I'm like, and I still have pockets. Oh my gosh, it'd be insane, right? And it's really cool. And so it's just expensive. So you do have to have an investment into this. And I think all of these are very useful. I've seen a lot of people do in-ground stuff. For me, I don't think I would ever willingly put a potato in ground, because I started out with potatoes in my grow bags, and it was little work to harvest. And from what I can see, harvesting is a pain sometimes, and oftentimes in the ground. So it's really up to you what you are growing, your environment, your funds, right? And your original soil in your ground is looking like. Like, there's just so many factors that play into that. And then you have other factors like, what is your growing zone? Like, how cold do you get, right? Do you have all 4 seasons? Are you insanely hot, like muggy, intense heat, so you're getting a lot of diseases? Is there an insane amount of bug pressure for certain things, so you can't even grow on the ground for certain stuff? Do you have some type of protection? There's tons of different protection. Let me know if you want me to go through some of them that I already know about. I have a polytunnel kind of thing that I built myself. I've used greenhouses as well, something to protect your plants. I also built like a box with like netting, like a wire netting to it, so that's not gonna help retain any heat, but it blocks out animals. And I had an issue with some squirrels and birds get into certain things, and I was not having it. The box does not cover not even a third of my stuff, but certain things I will put under there knowing that it will be attacked. And then it's also easy at that point, I throw shade cloth over that, right? Because when your sun gets insane, right, your sun is blazing, something as simple as a shade cloth you can toss over with a couple poles or whatever can help keep something alive or cool enough. Then you can also get into, how do you protect your soil? You're like, protect your soil? Yes, ma'am. Because at the end of the day, when it starts getting too hot, stuff like mulch or hay or, wood chips, all of that, wood chips and mulch are the same thing. But you get what I'm saying. There's a multitude of different things you can put. I saw someone put wool over their soil. You can put mad things over your soil to help keep it cool or to keep it warm long. Like there's a it's interesting how gardening is and how it can get very overwhelming. I really would suggest you just look and pick what's easiest for you, right? One raised bed, a couple grow bags. I mean, one grow bag. If you really want to get real simple, one 20-gallon grow bag, and for most part, you can grow like two to three plants in that thing, or a thing of potatoes. Gardening can be very overwhelming, but if you take it piece by piece, pick your medium. Pick your soil if you're going not in ground, right? You want some type of thing to pick that soil. Maybe grab a little cheap fertilizer or reasonable prices of fertilizer. Dash it in every couple weeks. Water it down. Pick up. You do not have to start with seeds. And I want to talk about that in another video because I find it very interesting that I've seen quite a bit of hate on the gardening community about starts. And I didn't know that was a thing. People coming for you about starts. Like, oh, well, it's cheaper to. Yeah, sometimes it's just about starting. And starts will help you start in a very easy way, especially since, at least for me, where I live, I've seen a lot of varieties in my smaller greenhouse places near me, where they have variety like Lemon Boy and the San Marzano, and I've seen I've seen some interesting varieties that I was like, oh, I could have just picked it. You know what I mean? Do what is gonna make it so that you can garden. And the easier you start, the more likely you are to keep doing it, because stress can really pack on. It really can. And also waste. So let me know what you think of what you do in your garden, because I'm definitely super interested. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this whole video, and hopefully I'll see you in my next one. Bye bye.